Hey guys, so today I think we're going to talk a little bit more about an investment that a lot of of our investors are actually asking us. Okay, so today we just want to talk a little bit about co-living, right? So Daniel, what's co-living?
So guys, if you do know co-living, you really have to be careful and don't be sucked into the positive cash flow that they are selling.
The hype.
Yeah, actually you go and rent a residential property, for example a 3-bedroom. Then you create and you craft out additional bedrooms. Usually where will it be? Usually will be at the study area. If not, then will be at the living area where you have windows itself. Instead of probably 3-bedroom, now you buy a 3+ study, you can craft out another bedroom at the living area and the study. So equivalent right now, instead of you are able to rent out 5 rooms instead of just 3+ study.
It's another form of investment, but I think we have to also take precaution what is actually moving ahead, and also anticipating what's going to happen. Co-living has been a trend, right? So when did it start, this trend?
It started, I think, during the COVID days, 2020, when you know that the rental actually escalated very high.
Yep.
With the interest also going upwards. So a lot of people, I mean, it will definitely somebody have to pay for the interest. So the landlord have to pay the interest. That's where the rental actually went up. Nowadays, what happened to the interest?
Interest rate now is also dropping. We are also moderating in terms of the rental. Right? So rental has been moderating. I think everyone knows that during the pandemic, there's a pent-up demand for rental. So we also want to caution those who are actually investing in the co-living, especially those who make your hard-earned money just to rent one unit, maybe for example $4,000. And then they are trying to chop it up to rent $6,000. So on paper, it may sound interesting, right? Every month you have a passive, positive cash flow of $2,000, which it might be, but what is the risk involved?
When you are doing co-living, majority of the risk is upon yourself. First, you have to pay the rental. Now, second, you have to provide also small bits of all these expenses. For example, your Wi-Fi, your handyman. You need to pay also for the constructing of the partition walls, cooling of the air cons, right? So, and of course, furnitures. But don't forget, guys, when you return to the landlord, there's additional costs that you need to rectify back to the original condition when you return the unit to the landlord.
Easily can be a good $3,000 to $5,000.
Yes. Right.
So these are costs incurred. You spend $4,000 a month in terms of rental, and then you're trying to get the $6,000 rental, right? So, but again, you're actually making use of $4,000 to make $2,000. Is it really worth it?
Now still got $2,000.
I don't know, right? Maybe $1,000.
Yeah. So from what I heard from the courses they are giving outside, so they will tell you that this is actually a positive cash flow that helps you give you additional income every month.
Is it really passive? You need to do a lot of work, if you have 5 rooms and then 2, suddenly exit, and then you're gonna find 2 more. I think it's more active than passive.
The problem is it sustainable?
Yeah.
Are there so many tenants coming in? From what I know, I mean, we have been on the ground. Our agents are on the ground. A lot of tenants, especially Malaysian, are all going back to JB and stay, then coming to Singapore to work. It's because during COVID time, there's this lockdown period. It's in out, it's very difficult. That's the reason a lot of tenants are staying on. But right now, they are all going back to JB, the Malaysian, all this and that. They are not really staying in the co-living.
Yeah, I mean, if you own the place, I think that's perfectly okay, right? There's more options for you. You want to split up rooms, you want to rent the whole unit, it's okay. But if you are renting it just for the purpose of doing co-living, then imagine if 1 month, if you don't get any tenants or 50% dropout rates, it's going to be quite painful. 1 month, if you can't find a tenant, you're going to pay $4,000. So it's a kind of a hefty investment for those who are not in the market. You really got to be careful of this.
I think the cost provider will ask them to get as many units as possible, because if one unit can be 1,000 to 2,000, they will sell them the ideas. Wow, imagine you own 5 units, you will every month have $10,000 every month. So this is the thing, but you must understand there's always risk involved. If you cannot get the rental to cover the whatever that you're paying,
the risk is on you.
Yes, the risk is on you. Imagine every month you're going to top up 1,000 now. There's a deficit on every unit. So how, if you own 10 units, how much you got to top up? Now it's $10,000.
You need to be a responsible advisor and to share with you. It's not that it doesn't work. I think you must understand your risk, right? If really that 1 month, it's only 50% rent you're getting, it's going to top up a lot of cash flow. Ultimately, when you're outside, definitely they are training outside. So where do they make the money from? You have to understand, right? Training, number 1. So education, that one is up to you. Leave it to you. It's networks that they are trying to get renovators done, partition done. So
cleaners as well.
Cleaners, So these are the vendors, they are actually making money from these investors, from our investors.
Correct. What will be the liability, Alex, right now if I suddenly want to break lease out of the 10? I cannot sustain anymore. I want to break lease already. What will be my damage?
Singapore, for all rentals, if you sign a 2 years contract, and sometimes co-living, they like to sign a 3 years contract, right? Maybe down the road 6 months, if it's not for you, you want to break the contract, you actually got to pay all the way to the end of the lease liability. That means to say, if you're taking a 3 years rental, if you only stay for 6 months, you still got to pay 2.5 years. If your rental is 4,000, it's 4,000 times 30 over months. So that is your downside. In the legal framework, the investor is actually the tenant, or the master tenant is actually liable for this problem.
We really have to be careful and don't be sucked into the positive cash flow that they are selling.
The hype.
Yeah, because I can already see that the trend is there's a lot of providers that are all selling this co-living space due to the pent-up demand during COVID. But right now, you can see that the take-up rate is really not that fantastic.
Yeah, and also take note not to step into the boundaries. The licenses for residential homes, minimum is actually a good 3 months. But for co-living, sometimes we do hear, they turn over in 1 month, 2 months, which is actually against the law.
Correct.
So our license in terms of residential is 3 months. Service apartments are 7 days, and hotel licenses are 1 day. So co-living, you have to take note, especially landlords. If you're going to rent to a co-living, you also got to take note of the risk, because the property belongs to you, right? So if they were to rent out short term, the risk is on the landlord itself. And okay, if you want to sell it during the rental of the co-living, what happens, Daniel?
Very difficult to see, bro. First is unsightly. There are a lot of partition. The unit won't be as bright as your original condition itself, because all has been partitioned up there. You cannot even see window. Second, the common area usually is very rundown and dirty because the tenants don't care. They just stay wherever their room is. Third, of course, it's very difficult to view, because you must make sure every tenant is in their unit to be able to open the door. If not, then you are not able to visualize and see it.
And I think most important, if I own a unit and I rent to a co-living company, if I want to sell it, the banks may not finance the next buyer.
Oh, that's true. That's the reason. Yeah. That's the recent regulation that has already been.
Yeah. So banks are not financing the next buyer who buys that unit. If they are under a co-living tenant, at the moment. So these are things that some of our owners and landlords don't see. If you are an investor trying to make some money off co-living partitions, really take note of your risk. And of course, next, if you are a landlord that owns a unit, but if you are giving out to a co-living, renting out to co-living, there's also risk incurred, if they don't rent to the right tenant, or if you want to sell. These are the potential risks that I think we should highlight a little bit.
That's correct.
Going forward, rentals are actually moderating.
Risk is very high. You got to weigh your opportunity cost and of course your risk and reward.
Don't just because you want to make a quick buck. I think you have to get the right advice. So if you need any questions, just drop us a line and we can advise you from here.
Yeah, do like and subscribe our video. If this is helpful, really help us to share to your friends as well. Here really to help the public and break down bit by bit for you. If you don't have any questions, you're dying to know, just drop us a comment.
So I'll see you guys at our next video.
Right, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.